That song actually goes on for about 20 minutes. It's longer than Stairway to Heaven, I think.
It does. It's actually it's just outsold Not Like Us. They're calling it the new Not Like Us. So hey everyone, thanks for listening to the show. I'm Tom McCaffrey. I'm here with Eric B, LE2B, last exit of Brooklyn. Let's jump right into it.
Yeah. Before we start, if you can see the video portion, maybe we'll put it up. My
I'm gonna put
background.
it up, yeah.
What's my background right now?
It's the Canadian flag,
Right.
the
So
Canadian maple leaf.
yeah. So I'm going to move there, I think, soon. I'm happy that the they won that. What game was that? The hockey game.
I don't really even know, but
Right.
all of a sudden there was like a hockey game between the U.S. and Canada. I can't hear that one anymore, our national anthem, because whenever they play it, everyone's booing over it. So, the first thing I love is like the fact that like Canadians are booing it. That's like the fact that you've
Yeah.
gotten Canadians to like show a sign of hate, against people, or to be kind of like contentious with people. It's just like singing the national anthem at like a group full of nuns at a celebration
Right.
for Mother Teresa, and they start booing. Like
Yeah.
you've gone too far. You've brought out the hate. Just like that's literally his superpower. He's just able to bring out the hatred inside anybody, no matter
Right.
who the person is. He can just make them hate.
Too, he's knows how to tank the economy. He's pretty doing well. The stock market got destroyed today.
Yeah, but so I
I don't
guess people are, and I know that they're just going to blame it on Biden. I
right.
mean, he,
What date will they stop blaming thing on
I think
Biden?
he's blaming. I heard now he's blaming it on Carter, which I thought was rough.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, it's so ridiculous and
I heard now
absurd,
he's
but
actually
everyone
blaming
just
things on
buys
the
it.
original Trump. He's the
The
4
Trump,
years.
the first term,
Yeah.
that was my economy from I don't know, 5 years
Yeah.
ago. Has nothing to do with me now. I'm not him.
I
I'm a
don't know who
different
that guy
Trump.
was.
I guess first of all, how long has he been president? Like 3 hours, and it feels literally like it's been a long time.
Right.
Maybe it's good if this might be a good thing. Like if you have a terminal illness, I guess the best thing to do for you is to have Trump be president, because every day feels like an eternity. You have a
That's
long
funny.
time to live. Like,
Plus,
oh
plus, I
jeez.
plus I've read some old people like posting thups like I'm glad I'm old because we're done. Perfect time to check out.
Well, also, and everything's so on brand, like just the utter shittiness and horribleness of everything. Like, what is the news now? It's like out of a movie. Now there's an asteroid heading to Earth, like literally out of like action movies from the
Right.
'90s. Do you remember the movie Armageddon
Yes.
from 1998? It was one of those big Michael Bay movies. I
Mhm.
put that on the other day. That I knew that movie was bad at the time, but put it on again. That movie literally looks like it was made by AI now,
Really? Okay. It
because
was just so formulaic.
it's so formulaic and it's so bad, and everything just looks so overproduced, and the budget is so big, and it's just like they'll have like these scenes where like there's a huge American flag in the background. Sorry, I'm messing with my mic. Can you
Yeah.
hear me okay?
I can hear you fine.
Anyway, I just rewatch it. It's funny to see like that movies in the 90s were so bad, some of them, that they literally, if you made an AI movie now and you asked to do like an action movie, it would make Armageddon, something on
I
the
mean, the one
par
thing
with
with that
Armageddon.
movie was that was the kind of thing that they would do. Michael Bay, he would make all these really kind of formulaic movies, but he would put the best actors in it. And the one thing you could say about Armageddon is that they have a lot of great actors in it. They have like Owen Wilson and they have Steve Buscemi and
Billy
stuff.
Bob
Billy
Thornton.
Bob Thornton. So it was like that was what they said when Michael Bay did. He started that trend, so it would elevate the material a little bit.
It
So
would
sometimes
elevate
you,
the material. It would
right,
help them because it would give them a lot more. It give them a lot more exposure in the public
right,
in
yeah,
the
and those
public
actors liked
eye.
it because they wouldn't get in roles like that, and that really started the whole thing. Now, where you see these superhero movies, and if it's not the star of the movie, there's always some really respected actor in there.
Those Michael Bay movies, even Armageddon at the time, I was like, this is bad. Like I
Yeah,
even knew then. I was like, just something about this seems bad. So
I did like the song to that movie though.
I did too, actually, which
Yeah.
I was ashamed of it. It's one of those things like when it would come on, I would always act like I hated it. I do that with a lot of songs. I
Yeah.
don't like this. And then like
Don't
an
want to
hour later,
close your
yeah,
eyes.
I would literally just be crying at home an hour later listening.
And just for trivia, like, you know who wrote that song? Aerosmith didn't write that song. It was Diane Warren. And if you ever have a time, if anyone's ever bored, read all the songs that Diane Warren wrote. You're like, what the fuck? She wrote like every song for like
Oh,
30 years.
really?
Yeah. Like every big song she was, or especially songs from movies and
Did you
stuff.
know who wrote, remember the Titanic theme song?
Yeah.
You know who wrote that?
Are you?
Remember Snow, that rapper? He actually wrote a lot. Remember Snow? He was like the worst thing to ever
Right.
happen to
White rap.
rap music or whatever the hell it was. That set white people back about 300 years. That Snow song,
Yeah.
Informer.
Well,
Informer.
I feel like Trump is setting white people back a little further, though. He might be
Yeah,
beating him. Yeah.
he's the Snow of presidents. So anyway, I don't. So do you want to? We can get into that in a minute. The whole
Yeah.
whatever the country capitulating to Russia thing that no one seems to be that concerned about. But first thing, so did you watch the SNL? They had the 50th anniversary show
Yes.
on Sunday.
Hmm.
Did you watch the whole thing?
Yeah.
Did you? What did you think?
It was pretty much what I expected. You know, they did like it was kind of like the one they did 10 years ago. It was like they're all their big sketches, but then they put famous people in them, and like the
Yeah,
alien abduction sketch they put in Meryl Streep and
yeah.
Eddie. It was funny to see Eddie Murphy like there was that one Black Family Feud where Eddie Murphy is doing a Tracy Morgan impression, and Tracy
Uh huh.
Morgan's right there, and Tracy Morgan's not playing himself.
Even though he basically was.
Yeah, but Eddie Murphy's impression wasn't that great, but it was still okay. And but you could see like how much fucking imagine what Tracy Morgan like everyone idolized Eddie
Eddie
Murphy.
Murphy
So imagine like Eddie Murphy's doing an impression of you.
while you're
That's
standing right next to him.
yeah, that's pretty like I would imagine that would like get you excited a
Yeah,
little
that's
bit.
got to be a surreal moment. That whole, it is amazing how they've, culturally what they've been able to do with that show, how they've been able to keep it so relevant for so
Yeah,
long, for 50 years. And this whole 50-year anniversary, I feel like I've been hearing about it for like the lead up for like 2 years
you're
as
right.
like the showbiz event of like, I don't know, the century. And I
And
gotta say, I was a little disappointed. Like it was fine. It's just, but it's like you were saying, they just would kind of rehash old sketches that I don't think I guess those are really popular sketches, but I don't think they're that funny. For me, SNL, like, I go in and out of liking it, but a lot of the sketches I really liked are kind of the more obscure ones that maybe a lot of
right.
people don't know. So I like that alien abduction one. I'm like, yeah, I guess it's a. And Meryl Streep was like seemed very unprepared. Did you notice
No,
that?
I was talking to someone about that yesterday. It's like you would think that she would have hosted Saturday Night Live before, especially because she was like a stage actress, but she never had. And she kind of reminded me of De Niro a little bit, where he's not. He was on this episode too. He's
Yeah,
always been. He keeps trying to go on Saturday Night Live. He probably should have done it like 30 years ago. He's
he
bad
did.
on.
He hosted once though.
He hosted a couple times.
Oh, he did.
Yeah, and
Okay.
he's been in other sketches. He played Robert Mueller. He's getting a little better, but the first time he hosted was really bad. He was just fucking up so badly. So it's almost like I think they're a little nervous to do that now, like Meryl
Yeah,
Streep.
the expectation, and also it is odd. It's an odd kind of dynamic that these like amazing, the best actors of
Well,
of
I
our
can
culture can't really do Saturday Night Live very well.
I think maybe the thing that fucks them up is the cue cards. Because when you're an actor, you're memorizing your lines, and there you have to read from the cue cards. So that's nothing that they're really used to. They don't do that in movies. They've never done that on stage. So it might throw them a little bit.
Yeah, I did notice though that Meryl Streep was like not great. I felt like she
Yeah.
was kind of fucking up a lot,
I think it
which I
throws
thought was
you.
odd.
Yeah, it throws you, I think it's the cue cards, I think.
And yeah, the expectation. I think they go in and everyone's like, "You better be like the
Yeah.
Meryl Streep of comedy,
You
whatever
could be
that
the
means."
Meryl Streep of Meryl Streeps, yeah.
Yeah, so it was kind of funny to watch. I like that though when you see someone who just seems like otherworldly, almost not human in what their
Right.
abilities, and then they're kind of like struggling at something. It's kind of cool to see that. Like when Michael Jordan played baseball,
Yeah.
you're like, okay.
But I heard, on Saturday Night Live, they want you to read the cue cards. They get mad if you don't.
Why?
Apparently, because they changed the jokes at the last minute, they'll keep changing them. Like apparently Janine Garofalo, that was one of her issues on the show that she memorized it, and they told her, no, just read the cue cards. Um, I
Yeah.
was I was told by an inside source that Adam Driver, he likes to memorize everything. But apparently he does a good job on that show. He really does do a good job.
Yeah, he is good.
But he's a very intense actor apparently, and he's like, I have to memorize everything. If you can do it, but then if they switch it up at the last minute, I guess you just have to. I don't know what you do there. I think they just
Yeah.
tell you beforehand that we're going to switch this line.
One, I don't know if you had this experience. Like, I'm basically almost the exact same age as the show.
Yeah.
And it is weird watching it, when they're going through the retrospective and showing everything, where you're kind of like, it kind of reminds you of different, when they'll show different eras. Like, you're like, oh, this is where I was in my life when this was the cast.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it's like a weird thing, almost like your life flashing before you start realizing what an integral part of pop culture and your upbringing this show really, it's been in your life for me and my entire life.
No,
So
and it was also kind of good to see because I think in the last special, I started getting into it like in the '80s. Really like Eddie Murphy and Billy
yeah,
Crystal, and the last special they kind of glossed over that because it wasn't the years that Lorne Michaels was. Um,
when he was gone, yeah.
right. So this time they really you saw Billy Crystal there. Eddie Murphy was in a couple of sketches, and by the way, Eddie Murphy still amazes me that he's pretty good in these sketches.
He
You know,
is. He is. I did
he didn't
notice he
fuck
was
up at
really
all.
good.
I mean, he
He
didn't do the
didn't.
best Tracy Morgan, but he didn't fuck up at all. And it's like in his DNA. I think he could.
Yeah, it is amazing too. I think people really, I guess a lot of people don't really remember, but the idea, it's like if they didn't find Eddie Murphy or someone like that talented at that time,
Oh, it's
that
over.
show probably is gone
Right.
after its sixth or seventh year, because like he did save the show. I mean, and he, it's so rare that someone goes on that show and is just immediately like a phenomenon, like
Hmm.
legitimately good. Like he was just like, I mean, I'm sure we were like 11 when he
Right.
became huge, and it was just literally like Eddie Murphy wasn't in my life, and then 2 years later, Eddie Murphy was just in everyone's life.
Right. And if you watch the show, um, because I've been watching some of the old ones on Peacock from those years. It's like he's in every sketch. After a year, they go, "Why don't we just put him in every sketch?" They put Piscopo in a lot, but they would always be together.
Oddly, I don't know. I'm not a huge Joe. I Even when I was young, when Joe Piscopo started to crap out. Like when you're really young, you don't know anything.
Right.
Not that I know anything about showbiz now, but like, you would watch showbiz, like things happen where like someone would be really popular and really good, and then all of a sudden they just would never work again. And in your mind, you're like, I don't understand. Like this guy's really good. Like why doesn't he work anymore? He
Yeah.
was someone that I thought was good, and I couldn't understand why he wasn't doing things.
I think one of the things that hurt him is I don't think he had a falling out with Eddie Murphy. I think that Eddie Murphy started liking to work with black comedians more in his movies because you were surprised. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
I always thought they were going to put Piscopo in a lot of Eddie Murphy movies. Never did. So maybe they had a falling out. I don't
Yeah,
know.
they must have. Or maybe they just, I don't, it is weird because they were for a couple years, they were kind of like a duo. Like they did
Yeah.
like a song together. It was like a rap song. It was
Oh yeah,
them doing
the
Ralph
Honeymooners.
and Ed
Yeah,
Norton.
that was on his Eddie Murphy's album.
Yeah, so I remember for a while, and then there's even on YouTube, I think there's some footage of them doing something together on at the comic strip.
Oh wow, I gotta
This
check
is
that
a
out.
weird thing. So like, I think I met you at the comic strip when we were first starting out. That's kind
Yeah,
of where we would do shows together. And so that was the place that for my first couple of years of doing comedy, it's the only place I really did. And it's funny because like on YouTube, there's video of Eddie Murphy getting his Delirious set ready
yeah, those are pretty
on
fun ones.
on the comic strip stage, which is so weird, that it's so weird to me because, that's such an iconic comedy special, and it was
Right.
like one of the first stages that I ever performed on. So the idea that I was on this, seeing Eddie Murphy on that stage doing Delirious before he's recording Delirious is kind of
Yeah.
surreal. That's a big thing. Have you
Uh,
been noticing this where like people are just literally not just riding bikes, they're riding like mopeds on the sidewalk
Yeah.
at like 30 miles an hour. The thing I want to say is I saw The Brutalist. This is my last pop culture thing. I don't know if you
Uh-huh.
saw The Brutalist. Yeah. I will say I liked it, I guess, because I have to say I liked it. I think that's one of those movies that you can't say you didn't like it or else you're stupid. And I think that it's one of those movies where, like, they have movies like that all the time where, like, everyone's like, it's so great. And you're like, I think a lot of people don't think this is great, but they're not allowed to say it. Like Zone of
Yeah.
Interest. Did you see that?
Oh no, I heard that it was boring. You told me it was boring.
It was so boring, but that was a movie I can't say it's bad because it's
Well,
about
it's
the
a
Holocaust, so I
Holocaust. Yeah.
have to like it. So, but I'm sorry, it was a boring fucking movie.
The only thing good about all this Holocaust movies is that everyone's starting to deny it now because everyone's dead who has actually lived through it. So it lives through movies. I just wish the movies were better. You know.
Right? Why can't you just make it better? Like The Brutalist was just like, first of all, it's like 9 hours long. It's like 3.5 hours long, and like I remember in the middle of it, I was like, "Is this the plot? Like this is the plot? Like so just
What
this
is he?
guy
Was he?
and he makes a building?" And I'm not even kidding. That's the plot of the movie. Someone's like, "Hey, you're a really good architect. Like, build this," and then he's like, "And it's hard."
could it was like over 3 hours, right? Could you have?
3.5 hours, and there's a 20-minute intermission. So
Right. That's. Let me ask you, when you watched that movie, did you see how many cuts that you could have made in the movie to make it like manageable? Because I saw that like in The Irishman. That was just there were just too many scenes.
I think
Like they're
you
not
could have easily cut a good 3 hours and 15 minutes out of it.
really just kind of the whole thing.
If you just had the intermission, that probably would have been like where I could have just gotten something to eat. um, I mean, you know, it was one of those things I've heard for so long how it's so amazing and it's like the most amazing movie. And like, I just was like, it's just seemed like there wasn't much of a plot. Like, literally, it's like a guy survives the Holocaust. He's from Budapest. He comes to America. I guess there's a lot of anti-Semitism. He's a really good architect. He's trying to, acclimate and assimilate to American culture. He meets some asshole rich guy who thinks he's a really good architect and hires him to build him a really big building in his brutalist style. And then he builds it for the 2.5 hours. And every now and then people are like, no, we need it to look like this. And he's like, no, shut up. It needs to be like this. And then they're like, we don't have the money anymore. He's like, oh, and then 3 years later, someone's like, we have the money. And he's like, oh, okay, great. And
Do
then
they have that extra trope where the wife does he have a wife and like you're working too hard? It's all about the building. Did they have that in that? Was she saying that he's working too hard? That's usually the thing they do.
yeah, I think there's a part of like, oh yeah, yeah, of course, of like, oh, you're just obsessed with this, like, you need to show your family
I
more
mean,
attention. It's like but I need to my vision. I'm doing a really bad impression of what
right,
his accent is, but he's really dedicated to his. I don't know. I just felt like I'm kind of like a plot guy.
right.
Like
Like it has to have one.
right. I mean, 3.5 hours of a guy building, and I remember I looked to my girlfriend in about 2.5. I'm like, so they're just gonna show him building the thing in real time? Like, what is this shit?
But do you know about that trope that I see it in so many movies? I could see why many actresses are frustrated with their roles in Hollywood. Because you'll even have a really big actress and her role is just like, you're never home with the kids. You're always out building stuff or, whatever you're doing. It's always that. What
Yeah.
about me? I mean, it just makes all the wives look like fucking annoying shrews?
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. A lot of it is a very meaty part for the woman Felicity Jones, I think is her name.
Uh-huh.
And I think she played that part in the movie about the who's the guy who was in the wheelchair who can't talk? What?
Stephen Hawking. She did that too.
That's a really good. I can't believe you guessed that from that description. Though, like she was his wife in that movie and kept being like, you need to stay home more and stop going
Yeah.
and
You're
doing
always
things.
running around. I can't run.
Yeah.
Well, you're willing yourself out of here.
That's Oscar season's coming. Remember that guy won the Oscar, the guy who played Stephen Hawking, and like this is amazing. And I'm like, I'm not trying to be a jerk, but this guy was just sitting in a wheelchair the whole time.
Right.
I feel like I could show up tomorrow and do that part, like where I'm
Yeah.
just sitting in a wheelchair, not talking.
Right. And just pressing a button, that's your voice.
I mean, he was up against like Leonardo DiCaprio was up for Wolf of Wall Street, where he has like 9-page
Right.
monologues. I guarantee you after the show, Leonardo DiCaprio was just in the limo and like, what the fuck are you talking about? This guy didn't do anything.
Yeah.
They say that they'll be like, someone will win, like Holly Hunter won for the piano, and she didn't have one line. And like, well, it's actually harder to give a performance. And I'm like, no, that's not. No, she didn't have to memorize any lines. That's not harder.
You think the agent, when he's mad, Leo, that he lost, to that guy, and he's like, listen, I'm going to get you an Oscar. Do you mind being fucked by a bear? All right.
Did you fall into that camp of you think the bear fucked him?
I don't know. I don't think I ever saw the movie. Everyone's,
I
was that
did.
the Reverend? Did the bear fuck him?
No, the bear. I don't even know how that became a thing. The bear like attacks it. Like the bear's not fuck. Like that's not how bears work. Bears don't want to fuck dudes.
Was that a good movie? I tried to watch it.
Well, it was. I mean, it was fun. It's another one of those movies that like it looks amazing, but you know what? Leonardo DiCaprio for years was passed over, and the one time he won was when he's barely not saying anything. Like
Right.
the whole movie again is just him having a really bad week. That's what that movie is. It's
Mhm.
like he's not stuck in the snow and he's trying to get home and he's really cold and he's and then like a bear tries to fuck him and then
Right.
people try to kill it, but he doesn't say a lot. He's just kind of looks really shitty and cold the whole movie.
No, no. Let me ask you a question. So that was a great movie. They said he won the Oscar. How is that different than that Liam Neeson movie called The Gray, where all the wolves are trying to eat him? It's pretty much the same movie, right?
I didn't see that, but probably I don't know
But that
why
movie, they were like, it was a good movie, but they were just like 40% on Rotten Tomatoes. But I'm like, it isn't. What's the difference? If you put bears in there, then he wouldn't won the Oscar. I
I
don't.
don't know why The Revenant was like. I mean, I guess it looked really good. I mean, first of all, I saw it in the theater, and that's a movie you have to see on like the IMAX for you to appreciate it. Like, if you just saw that movie at home, I mean, you would just be like, "What is this?" It's just not. And I'm not kidding. He doesn't really say anything. I don't know. If you're not saying, I think I would be good in movies where I didn't have to say anything. You know what I mean? I think I could do that. Like, those movies, The Quiet Place, where the whole movie they just have to not say anything because
Right.
monsters hear them. I think I could do that really well.
Yeah. Just go.
If I could
"Oh."
just like make faces that I'm scared for two
Yeah.
hours and then not talk, like just hit me up for that. I think I'm perfect
But
for
wasn't
that.
there another movie where the fish fucked everybody and that won Oscars? The Shape of
Shape
Water.
of Water.
So maybe there's
Have you
something there.
ever once talked to one person who's been like, I love that movie?
No, I always talk about that's the same plot as Splash. If you break down that movie, it's the exact same plot. I think we could build an Oscar movie right now. This is what it is. It's during the Holocaust, and this guy
Meets a
who's
fish.
yeah. Well, you have to change it. There's like an octopus, and he sees it in the concentration camp, and he fucks the octopus, and
And then
then
he builds at a building for 5 years. And then his wife is like, why do you just keep going out in your wheelchair fucking fish and building? I literally feel like an AI would write that movie
yeah.
and it would probably win an Oscar. I don't, they just, I don't know what it is with the Oscars where they just don't, they get so caught up. Well, I don't know why The Shape of Water, like, whoever thought that was a fucking good movie? It's just
I
like,
think it was another one of those where it was the right person who directed it, but the wrong movie.
it just shows you all that, especially like during the Weinstein era. All you find out later, when remember you used to not know anything about showbiz, and then you found out everyone was raping everyone, and it's kind of like the only way a lot of these women got lead roles is by Harvey Weinstein raping them.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like the meritocracy of it all is so ridiculous. Where they're like, "Thank you so much." It's like, well, I mean, you fucked this guy. You're not like good. You know what I mean? Like, I guess you're good, but you fucked the guy. But oh, I forgot to mention. So I went to high school with Adrien Brody from The
Right. So
Brutalist.
how are
And
you how are you shitting on this movie?
I think he's amazing in it. Like
Okay.
that. Like I
He's
think
always good.
he makes the movie probably, but And I'm not trying to shit. He's an amazing actor.
Yeah,
What?
he was good in this movie Predators. It was like the sequel to Predator. It was actually one of the best sequels. It actually wasn't bad. He was good in it.
Yeah, and it was weird. That was like a weird time in his career because like that's been the trajectory. He won the Oscar. He had that thing where he won, and then they're like, this guy's the next Pacino, and then he did a couple shitty movies, and then he kind of you could tell there's a few years he didn't really know where to go. So like Predators, I think was they were like trying to make him like an action guy
Right, right.
because he's like super ripped in it, like Schwartz. Well, he's kind of taking the Schwarzenegger part.
Yeah, you
I
remember
think
when they
it'd be
were?
really
I think it
cool if
was
he
better
won
when.
again.
Yeah, it was. I liked it when they moved it back. Now they're putting it back in March.
Yeah, no, I don't. I think the pandemic fucked up the timing.
No, but there was a point even before the pandemic where they were moving it earlier because all the other all the other award ceremonies were um, early, and it was. Oh, it's March 2nd.
They were doing it in like January, right before the pandemic. It was in January.
Right, but yeah, they moved it up because they felt like the Golden Globes were taking some of its luster because I mean, how wait late are you going to celebrate the movies of 2024? It's
They used to wait. I remember. So again, this is my other big story. I have like three big stories in my life. One of
yeah.
them is I went to high school with Adrien Brody. The other one was I was on the Oscars when I was 11 years old. So, and I think back, this is 1984, and I think that they did it in like April. Like they did it way late. So that was like a different time. Now everything's so fast. But
Yeah,
you
of
know the
course.
story, right? So I danced with a bunch of kids with this, with a musical number for
Yeah,
Flashdance.
we wearing
And
the leg warmers and everything.
no, I was wearing like we were all it was me and a bunch of kids. So we were there because we were like someone made a documentary about this guy who used to teach dance. This sounds like a gay story, but it's like I was just happened to be chosen to be in this
Right.
thing
It's
because
not
it was an
helping your
extracurricular
heterosexual
thing.
bona fides here, but we're gonna go with this.
So like someone made a documentary about this guy who went to schools and taught dance to kids and then just who had no dance training and I got picked to be in this like special thing because I actually am a good dancer, not to and I have the body of a dancer, and so they made a documentary and it was nominated for an Oscar for best documentary, and like me and some of the other kids were like in it, and
Uh,
that's why they had us there. But then also they were like, and I didn't realize this until like 10 years ago. So at one point they were like, hey, everyone come to the side of the stage. And this was like, I still have these memories in my mind because I was so young, but I remember seeing like, I talked to like Jack Nicholson and stuff. He was like talking to me. And they brought us to the side of the theater and they were like, hey, if we, signal you guys, it was all of us, like go run to the stage. And I had no clue what was going on. So they had signaled us and we ran to the stage and I was just on stage. And I really had no clue what was going on.
mm.
I was just on the stage. And then I found out like 10 years ago that um, the documentary won. And so we went up with the guy who won, the director, for his acceptance speech.
Oh, okay.
So I was up there at the podium with all the other kids. And then I found out like 10 years ago that guy,
Raped all those children.
yeah, it came out in therapy that he molested me with his Oscar. No, so like that he 3 years later directed Dirty Dancing. So
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
so I was on stage with the director of Dirty Dancing before Dirty Dancing, accepting an Oscar with him. But I didn't even know. It's just so funny because like if I had known, I would have been so like. But when you're a kid and you just don't know anything,
Yeah.
and then in your life, I was like, oh, this is just life. Like
Right.
you
Yeah,
just
I
go
go to
to
the
the
Oscars at
Oscars.
13 years old, and then I'm
Jack
like,
Nicholson just like high fives
yeah,
you and like while he's holding an Oscar. Because I mean, and it's funny because when I came back, I was so cocky, like
right.
I was like, yeah, hey everybody. Like I didn't go to school when I got back the next day, because I was like, I'm just not feeling school today.
This was in the news this week. A certain friend, Adam Glenn, sent me the story, and it was a video of this country singer Zach Bryan. He's pretty big.
Yes,
All right.
I know the name.
Right.
Yes,
So Adam just sends me this video, and what happened was Zach Bryan was in this bar, and and he was playing pool with these other people, and one of them was wearing those meta glasses where you're filming things, And Zach Bryan was like, "Don't film me, just stop that," you know. And then one point he's like, "I'm just filming my friends," and Zach Bryan says, "Well, that's pretty gay, right?" So the video kind of looks I guess those other people sent it to TMZ, and it doesn't make Zach Bryan. You couldn't even tell if I was. Well, the main focus of the story is a bar that I go to all the time. It's
What bar?
it's on McDougal, and it is an ale house. That's all I'm going to
Okay.
say. You've been there
I
before.
can't put that together.
Yeah. Anyway, so I'm looking at it and I'm like, what,
Is
why
that the
is,
Sullivan Draft House?
yeah. So I'm
Go
like, why
ahead.
are they,
Sorry.
I go, why is Adam send me this? And I see this big Taylor Swift 2024 flag up there. I'm like, oh shit, it's that bar. So, and also part of the story was that apparently Zach Bryan has had a lot of issues. He had a big thing with Taylor Swift. So it looked like in the video was maybe kind of made it look like Zach Bryan was being a dick. He was like, I guess a racist because he was saying that's gay.
Yeah.
And which
I know
always
gays are a very, very touchy
right,
race.
but it's so funny, and I was talking about this yesterday, like it's like I think they kind of use this a little bit because they remember that Morgan Wallen when he was saying the N word and stuff like that. You know,
Yeah. Was he a country guy?
country guy too, big
Sounds
country
like
guy.
it from that
Right,
story.
right. So, and they were like, oh, and everyone's like, I can't believe this country singer from Alabama is saying the N word. I'm like, you can't
You
believe
can?
that.
I can't believe he doesn't lead with that
Yeah, I
whenever.
mean, why did you listen to his songs? I mean, like, I don't know. But
Right.
anyway, so I looked like they were trying to go for that. So then I actually went there last night and I talked to the bartender, and she's like, the way they presented that was completely different than what happened. She goes, he was actually a good dude. He was just, it was those other people being dicks. And she said, this is how bad they were being dicks. They recognized him. And they go, oh, you're Zach Bryan. And there's like a jukebox there, and they start playing his music. And they go, this is you. This is you. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I
That would
mean,
be annoying.
right. So she was like, they did just kind of did a hatchet job on him. It's like,
Does he say he says it's gay that you're filming your friends?
right, but the whole thing was they were just kept filming with these glasses, and he's like, don't film me. I don't want to be filmed. You know, you're in a bar. You don't want to fucking, you're a celebrity. And the guy wouldn't stop filming. So
Yeah.
he's like, I'm just filming me and my friends. He goes, well, that's gay, which is, as slurs go, I mean, that's,
That's pretty
yeah,
benign.
yeah.
You know,
So,
and I people always are like, what's the big deal? Like, if you're a celebrity, like, so what if people are taking pictures? I did your show last night, and
right.
when I was on stage, a girl in the front row held up her phone to me. And I
Yeah.
was like, what are you doing? She's like, I'm taking pictures. And I literally, my first instinct was like, why are you doing that? Like, I
Mhm.
wasn't like, hey, stop, I'm so mad. But it is sort of like, it jolted me a little bit because I was immediately like, why are you doing that?
Yeah. I
So
mean,
I could just imagine if my entire life, I feel like being a celebrity, it's one thing if you became wanting to be a celebrity before everyone had a camera, a phone, but ever since the camera phone thing, like, I don't know why you'd want to be a celebrity. I feel like that would just ruin being famous because it's
I,
just like if everywhere I went, everyone was taking pictures. I mean, I would be like, remember when Sean Penn would like punch everyone out for
yeah.
taking his picture? Like, I understand that now.
Day. I mean, I'm not even famous, and I don't want to talk to people after shows when people come up to
Oh,
me.
I hate it. Last night
Yeah.
after the show, I mean, I was standing there and I was about to leave, but I saw there were people there and a couple of them were kind of looking at me, and I was like, I don't want to talk to these
Right.
people. And it wasn't even like I don't even think wasn't even like they were that into me.
No,
But
and sometimes because like I don't like what they say because all you have to go is, hey, great set, but they never do that.
yeah,
They'll say great set, and they go, oh, I have some jokes that you should do, or you should try this. Like you should get
that
on Saturday
or
Night Live or something like that bullshit.
yeah, why aren't you on Saturday Night Live?
No, they
Why
said
aren't you
you.
more
They'll
successful?
say you should try to get on Saturday Night Live. That's the
Oh,
thing. I'm
right,
like,
right.
right. I should. I forgot to call Lauren this morning. I'm going to do
Yeah.
that.
Do you have the number, the hotline?
You
And
want to
then
hear? You want to
another
hear?
one I love is they'll be like, you're so great. You're like one of the best I've seen. And then they go, and then they say the worst comedian in the world. You and Carrot Top are the
Right.
best. And you're like, so that nullifies anything you just said. I've had that a couple of times where I had it with Janine Groff. Like, I'd met her a few times, and I had a thing where, like, I literally was trying to get her to leave. Like, I was kept trying to leave.
Yeah,
Uh,
because all I did went up to Quentin Tarantino. I gotta say, I don't usually go up to celebrities. Pulp Fiction, my favorite movie of all time. He goes, "Oh yeah, well when I was doing that thing and this thing," and he's going, and then like after like 20 minutes, I'm like, my friend's looking at me. He's like, what's going on? I'm like, I gotta go to the
I think I'm
bathroom.
gonna have to tell Tarantino to like, slow his roll, like tone it down a little. That and then there. Do you remember that? No, we should wrap this up. Do you?
Yeah,
We I did your show a while ago at that place, the Gaff, that bar.
yeah,
Yeah, and I'm sure you remember. So like we were there, and Timothy Busfield was there,
yes.
the guy from 30 something. And I remember we were all like, and it was like a small bar, and there was like no one there, and he was like sitting right where we were
Mhm.
sitting.
A lot of stage actors would go there because they would be performing on. It's near Broadway, so a lot of them would go there.
Yeah, and so we were standing there, and I put on Eminem, and I was rapping Stan, and he was with these two women, and one of the women was really young, and one of them was like older, and the woman that was older started looking at me when I was rapping along, kind of like impressed,
Hmm.
and then uh Timothy Busfield turned to me and he was like, "Oh, hey man, yeah, I love Eminem." And I was like, "Oh, cool. Timothy Busfield's like engaging me." And so
Right.
he was like, "Yeah, I love Stan, because I've dealt with like weird fans." And then he was like, "But nothing like her," referring to the woman, the
Oh,
older
I
woman.
don't know who the
You
woman
remember
was, right?
this?
Yeah, it was Melissa Gilbert, right?
Well, so yeah, and I go, "Well, what do you mean? Like she had to deal with it?" And he was like, "Yeah, like." And I go, "What was she in?" He goes, "Little House on the Prairie." And I remember I looked at her and I was like, I didn't say it, but I wanted to be like, what did she do on Little House on the Prairie? And I go, and I did go, I go, who was she on? And he goes,
Laura Ingalls
Laura Ingalls. And I was like, and so I looked, I was like, oh my God, that's fucking
the
Melissa
star.
Gilbert.
Yeah.
And so then I don't know if you remember, so then we all like hung out with them for like the whole night. Do you remember
Yeah.
that?
They were cool though, I
That was
remember.
they were like really they were visiting from, I guess she was doing a play and they lived in Detroit and they're married. That was another weird thing.
Oh yeah. I think sometimes when they're older and they're not as famous anymore, they like that. They like to you run into these guys. You could pick, you say you pick out these celebrities, you're good at
Oh,
that.
yeah,
And
yeah.
and you always know what to say to them, obscure things.
Well, I like going up to the obscure ones who they're not getting approached a lot.
Right.
And like I did it to Wallace Shawn. I saw him at Barnes and Noble. The guy from Princess Bride.
Right.
And I went up to him and I was like, "Hey, I'm a really big fan." And you could tell he was just like, "Really?" Like he looked so shocked. And I was like, "Of course, dude. Like you're fucking like the Princess Bride guy, and fucking he's also in the movie Heaven Help. I think I even said that. I'm like, Heaven Help Us. Like, that's not a
uh,
very known movie. I mean, we won't get into it, but the whole like Russia Putin thing, and I mean, now the rewriting of everything, and everyone just going along with it. Like the fact that now he's rewriting the invasion of Ukraine is just fucking insane. I mean, the parallels are literally almost point by point exactly like Hitler, when Hitler rose to power, like the whole thing we were
Munich.
talking about, how who was it, Chamberlain,
Yeah, they gave away half of Europe to
they just
in Munich.
appease that, because that's what had they just keep appeasing them and appeasing, and they think that once like when you bow down to a bully, that the bully just kind of is like, oh great, all right, I'm happy now. It's like, no, let's keep going with this.
Right.
I don't know why no one's, and I don't know. Are the Republicans ever gonna, is it gonna get to the point where they're finally like, you know what, this is bad.
Like Trump's
It
trying to
is.
take over the post office. I'm like, oh, well, those ballots are never going out, you know, or they're
I
going out
know,
to some places, but not others.
like, have you seen pictures of Marco Rubio lately? Who just, again, he has that look that they all get eventually, of the like, the prisoner of war who's just kind of like doing one of those videos, like the captor videos, where they're like, they're
He's,
treating me very well. He literally has that expression now.
yeah, he's blinking in Morse code just so.
I was watching that OJ thing they did on. It's funny how they just every 4 years now they come out with the new OJ documentary.
Right.
Be like, can you believe it? They found the glove. It is absurd hearing the story again, because you're just literally like, and then we went there and there was blood all over the lawn. And then we found Ron Goldman's hand in his kitchen.
It's funny when you talk to young comics, and I talk to them like, "Do you remember any of that?" I'm like, "Remember that? Wait, that was the only thing he talked about for 2 years. I know every part of that story. That was the only thing in the news for 2 years. You don't forget that shit."
That trial was for a year. It was like the greatest. I mean, every day I woke up and watched that trial. That was my fucking routine. It was
Yeah.
it was my show for a year. That's why I guess Trump is praying that this Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni thing gets some. Have you been seeing that? That story is just like, I just want to be like, you know what? They both seem like assholes. Can we just agree they're both assholes?
Mm,
What is that story? It's so fucking weird
I don't
that they
know.
were her. First of all of this like hoopla and all of this, rigmarole around this movie that is just shit. Did you see the movie?
No.
It's just like nothing, and it's just like it's got. The only reason I saw it is because of this shit.
Sometimes they'll do that. They'll to help their client.
Oh,
They'll plant negative stories. Now they may not do any of that stuff anymore because they can get sued, and that's a
but
big
they
thing.
did that with. That's kind of what they're doing with the Amelia Perez. Actually, I guess they didn't plant that. That
Right.
she just kind of like tweeted. Why do they always have these tweets of just the worst things in the
I
world?
know.
I wonder what if I ever became really famous. Like, what are the tweets that would take me down?
Well, I always say this. I say any tweet you did before 2012, I think you get a pass on because nobody knew. People didn't understand Twitter. Everyone just said, "Hey, I'm going to say the most
I don't
outrageous."
know. Really, you think so? I don't
I
think
think
it would matter.
I think early on, I think it was a lot of that. You just would tweet things because you didn't know what was going to be there forever, and then everyone. I didn't do it because I had
Yeah.
worked in an office, so I was always scared to do that. But like, you just wanted to, you got likes, So, but if you were doing tweets like that in 2020, then you got to answer for that a little bit.
Yeah. So you can keep up all those Holocaust denial tweets you
Yeah,
put up.
yeah, I got plenty of those,
Um
and the fish
of all the
fucking
things
one.
in the world to like put your flag on denying, why like that's the weirdest one.
Right.
Yeah, I'm just not buying it.
I know, I know. It's just like, what? Even if you have those opinions, just keep them to yourself. It's like when people go, "Yeah, there were some good things about slavery." I'm like, all right, possibly, maybe economically speaking, maybe, but not at all.
Well,
So,
like
so maybe you
yeah,
should not say that at all. How
right.
about
There's
that?
certain things, even like the election people, people floating around these theories about like the Elon having something to do with stealing the last election, which like part of me is like kind of humors that idea. Like I'm part of me is like, yeah, I could see that happening. But the thing is like the difference is like I don't know. I have no proof of that. I can't prove that. So I'm not going to like it's not going to be my hill to die on.
Right.
Whereas the other side, because in my mind, it's kind of like I kind of feel like something's off about it. But the other side, all they do is go on feelings. They're just like,
Right.
I just feel like there's no way that this is gonna happen. So that's it. No, there's no so like I'm not gonna go like attack the police about, you know what I mean? On like
Mhm.
a feeling I kind of have. Like if I have some proof, I just can't I would never jump onto some movement where like they're making these huge claims and I just have no proof of it. I
I'll
just
give you
there's no
another.
way.
Yeah, I'll give you another hill. We'll wrap it up after this. But Bill Burr has been doing great stuff lately, and he's
Yeah.
like, first he said he understands why the healthcare CEO got murdered. Now he's like, kill all the billionaires and stuff. And
Yeah.
a lot of these people now are turning on him like, you're woke now. You're woke. I'm like, he didn't say Democrat or Republican. He said billionaires. And you see all these people like, you're defending. Who defends billionaires? Who defends that? Like, why are you dying on that hill? And they think Elon has their interests. Like a million billionaires do not have your best interests at heart. They do not. That's
Right.
why
And
they're
the argument
That's why they're billionaires because they
right.
step
And
on
the
people.
argument that like I guess Rogan was putting out there and people are like, he doesn't need your money. He has billions of dollars. We were talking about that yesterday. Like
Yeah,
this idea that like, billionaires just like they get to a certain it's a personality type where they just get a certain amount of money and that's it. They're just good. It's like, no, it's like that's not how their mind operates. Like they want more money. That's how they got to where they are. It's kind of and I was saying it's the analogy of people being like, why did Ted Bundy? I mean, I don't think he did anything. I mean, like, why would he have to rape and murder people? He had like girlfriends. He was good with women. He didn't need to. It's like it has nothing to do with getting laid or being able to get women. It's something
sickness.
in their brain. It's a
Right.
sickness that they need. It's a disorder they have.
And
It
and
has
some
nothing to do. It's about winning and beating every.
and
It's a
so,
zero sum game attitude.
right. And some of the arguments I see where they billboard, and they'll do this with a lot of celebrities. Like they're millionaires. They're millionaires. They can't. They shouldn't be allowed to talk about poor people like the plight. I'm like, no. The problem is all of them should be doing that. Why isn't the billionaire talking about that? Right? I mean,
Yeah.
he's showing that he cares about poor people. Usually, people who care about poor people were poor at some point. Elon Musk, that was never a thing for him. He was born on third base.
I
So
don't know what people are thinking. Like they just think out of the goodness of his heart, he's just decided to cut everything from the government, like just
right,
out of some kind of like altruistic
hundreds of
intent that he
thousands of
has.
jobs. Yeah, I mean, it's like the unemployment rate's going to tick up. Like you like
He
you're
has these like women, these like baby mamas that keep tweeting like, "Hey, we have a kid, and you won't acknowledge him or support him." It's like, yeah, well, I mean, I only have $500 billion. Like, why don't you send her $1 billion and that's it? You know what I mean? And then the kid's good for like, you know what I mean? Like, this guy won't even like help kids that he's brought into
right.
the world. And well, he only has 500 billion, but it's not about like he doesn't need any more. But that's the whole thing. It's not about money. It's like it's the whole like Gordon Gekko attitude of how
Right.
many yachts can you water ski?
I know.
But it's Rogan to be so like I'm not shitting, but like to simplify it like that right there is just so naive and like almost I don't even know if he believes it. It's like you really think that that's what's going on, like
Right.
that like he doesn't need your money. He has so much. If he has so much money, he's happy. Go to the fucking beach.
Now, just twist it the other way. Let's say Biden was in charge and he got George Soros to like look into everyone's tax returns and stuff. I mean, what would you? There'd be like fucking pitchforks and torches. It'd be another Capitol riot, you know?
Well, people were more up in arms about his son getting a gun. That was the big problem. Can't believe this guy got a gun. I thought you guys loved. I thought everyone should have guns. He
Not,
lied to get a gun.
yeah, like other they haven't.
Yeah, all right. This kid, this 16-year-old, went in with a machine gun and murdered a bunch of 3-year-olds. Yeah, whatever. Maybe they should get guns too. Then you know what I mean. But
All right.
it's just so weird. Anyway, so I'm glad we didn't talk about politics.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, everyone. And we'll see you soon. We'll see you next week.
All right, bye.
Enjoy.